Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily Bank Shop best bet in college hoops, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. All right, here we go. Here are the games for Tuesday in college basketball. First up, we see Tarleton State and Florida State. This one 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, we faded Tarleton State in that game on Saturday against Sam Houston, and it was a 91-62 blowout win for the Bearcats. And, last year Tarleton State was one of the best covered teams against the spread, but this season it's just not the same team. A lot of missing production from last year's team and also missing players right now due to injury. I still think the books have yet to recalibrate, completely where the Texans are in the power rankings in Division I college basketball. We're starting to get there. We see some steeper spreads, but I don't think it's steep enough. I think Florida State should be a much bigger favorite in this game, so I still think there's value with the Seminoles and, fading Tarleton State. And I think that one of the big things is Tarleton has really struggled to take care of the basketball. 21 turnovers on over 30% of their possessions against SMU. 21 more turnovers against Sam Houston is just not going to get it done. And one of the big reasons I like Sam Houston in that game was the fact that that's their defensive game plan. Very aggressive, force those turnovers, score those points in the fast break. But that's also what Florida State looks to do under Hamilton. I mean, they've been top 25 or top 50 in turnover percentage defensively many years when he's been the coach, including so far this year. They're 16th in the country. So I think Florida State's going to get those turnovers, rack them up probably 20 plus again, score those points in the fast break. This is one of the faster teams in the country right now. And I just think Florida State runs away with this game. It's another bad matchup for Tarleton State. It's not going to always be like this in terms of getting these kinds of prices. I do think the books will be able to catch on, and we're not going to be able to find some value. But this is a game where I still think the value's there. Next up, FAU and UCF. This one 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, we took UCF on opening night against Texas A&M, and that was an outright win for the Knights, 64-61. But they did follow up that game with a not-so-great performance against Purdue-Fort Wayne. And yes, it was a classic letdown spot, but overall, this wasn't a great showing, especially offensively, taking a lot of bad shots and not making many of their threes in that one as well. I do worry about UCF in a game like this. I think this UCF team will be quite inconsistent this year. I think they're going to be able to pull off some nice upsets in the Big 12 naturally, but I also think I don't really love laying points with them, at least not right now. And FAU, they had an absolute blowout win against Indiana State on opening night. It was a 97-64. It was a neutral site game against a solid mid-major opponent. Yes, the Sycamores look nothing like they did last year, but they're still a solid team on paper. So that was a really impressive win, and I know a lot of people were not really high on FAU going into the season because losing Dusty May, losing your top three or your big three in John L. Davis, Elijah Martin, and Vladislav Golden. But this is still a really loaded roster, and you bring in a great head coach. His first time as a head coach, John Jacobs. He was an associate with Baylor, and those teams with Baylor under Scott Drew, we know they take a lot of threes, and that's exactly what FAU is looking to do this season. In a press conference after the win against Coastal Georgia, Jacobs said, we have a number in mind of what we're looking for in terms of getting off threes, and they had 42 three-point attempts in that game, in that win over Coastal Georgia, and right now they're hitting at a 48% clip. Certainly, they're going to fall back down to earth a little bit and start to miss some more shots, but this is a really potent offense right now. They're a fast-paced offense, and even the defense is starting to get it done right now. They're good defensive rebounding team. They're forcing turnovers. So I think that this is just exactly the style that UCF does not want to see. I think against a team like Texas A&M that has trouble shooting the basketball, they play a little bit slower pace. That's more of a game that UCF has a better chance in, but this one, I think FAU honestly could run away with this one, getting 5.5 points. I'm going to take those points with the Owls. Next up, we see Sam Houston and Baylor. This one, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Of course, we took Sam Houston on Saturday, like we mentioned, in that blowout win against Tarleton. And I'm certainly not afraid to take Sam Houston or similar teams in games against power opponents like Baylor. But for me, this particular matchup against a team like Baylor is just not the right one, in my opinion. I do think that the Baylor Bears take care of business in this game, win and cover the spread. One of the big things we talk about Sam Houston all the time is forcing those turnovers. They're, all the seasons under Chris Mudge, they've been a very competitive team in forcing turnovers, being really volatile defensively. But, if they don't force those turnovers, if teams are able to take care of the basketball in their games, we do see Sam Houston struggle, especially on the perimeter, and that's exactly what you don't want to be against Baylor. I mean, we saw in the game against Nevada, we saw Nevada go 10 of 22 from the perimeter in that game, 45%, ended up scoring 91 points in a big win for the Wolfpack. I think Baylor, so far this season, they've done a great job of taking care of the basketball. They're limiting turnovers, and they have not really been able to hit their shots from three yet, but we know there's plenty of capable players on the perimeter. They're going to get going here for the Baylor Bears, and I think that this is the game that we could see them shine. Yes, you could say it's a letdown spot after the win against Arkansas. It was a pretty close game down the wire, but I still think that just talent-wise and matchup-wise, this is a game that's really better suited for Baylor. Sam Houston on the road, I think they may be able to compete for maybe the first half, but I don't think they make enough shots or stop enough shots to be able to keep up for 40 minutes. Next up, we see Kentucky and Duke. This one's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Now, Duke is right now a 6.5-point favorite, and I think at a neutral site, it's just too many points in a game between two teams that I think have a lot to like on both sides of the ball. I mean, obviously, Duke is right now top 5 in adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency. You have one of the best players and best freshmen in the country in Cooper Flagg, but Kentucky's a very experienced team, and I like that in neutral site games early in the season. Yes, it's an experienced team filled with players from all over the country and the transfer portal, but I mean, Mark Pope is a really underrated head coach in my opinion. I mean, he took BYU last year in their first year in the Big 12 as a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament and a winning record in the Big 12, which is not an easy thing to do. And I think he was a great hire by Kentucky, moving on from John Calipari. I just think that Kentucky's going to be good enough. I mean, I think they've played a tougher schedule so far. Both teams have played weak schedules, but I think Kentucky's been a slightly more challenging. And I think this is a game that goes down to the wire, down to the final few possessions. I'd rather have those 6.5 points in my back pocket in a game I think Kentucky can win outright. So give me the points with the Wildcats in this one. Next up, we see UC Riverside and Cal Baptist, the final game we're going to talk about for the Tuesday card, 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, this may be a square play, but I got to go with the over in this one, as both of these teams have just been miserable defensively to start the year. Cal Baptist does play a slower pace offense or overall, but it hasn't really mattered. I mean, they played an 83-78 and 88-84 final scores, and those were against Incarnate Word and Kennesaw State. Not great offenses. They were able to put up a ton of points in both of those games, the opposing teams were. And then UC Riverside also, they played in high-scoring contests, 91-76, 86-80. We've mentioned that the overs so far in college basketball have been catching at a rate we're not used to seeing. I mentioned it's also going to probably change pretty soon. The books are going to catch up, and we're going to see higher lines. But this one being in the low 150s, I don't think it's high enough. I could see both of these teams in the 80s, even at that slower pace of play, because they also just really match up well offensively against each other. When you look at Riverside, miserable on the glass so far this season, 328th in offensive rebounding, 279th in defensive. Cal Baptist right now top 75 in the country in offensive rebounding. They're taking care of the basketball. They're getting to the free throw line. Those are big problems for UC Riverside, and I think Cal Baptist will be able to score plenty of points. But on the flip side, Cal Baptist has been dreadful against a three-point shot. They're ranked 349th in the country, giving up a 48% clip. Now, that should improve, should regress toward the mean as the season continues. But we saw Kennesaw State go bonkers, 15-31 from 3 in that last game. And UC Riverside just so happens to score a ton of their points from three-point jumpers. 44.2% of their points so far this year have been from the three ball, and they're hitting at a 37% rate. They're also taking care of the basketball themselves. So I got to go with the over here in Riverside Baptist. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and put those college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bet, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.